Our speaker today is Arthur Bradway from the Government Sales Engineering team. He'll be covering the slides today and the demo, and I'll be back to help with the Q&A at the end of the event. Arthur, please take it from here.
All right, so hopefully everybody can hear me. Thanks for coming. Actually, just because I can only usually see a little bit of the list, I never have another Arthur in the meetings. So I see there's another Arthur online, and we can pass control over to him, and he can do the presentation for us too, just to get him excited in the conversation. So we're going to go over quite a bit of stuff today. Maybe do a couple of quick little housekeeping things. This webinar is going to get recorded. You'll get the link sent out, I'm going to guess in about a week or two, depending on how things go right now with all the people working from home and everything. And I'm sure everybody's going to like this recording because there's a ton of stuff we're going to go over. So don't try to make notes on all of this because you won't be able to keep up. Kind of make note of a couple of sections you like, and then when you get the recording, go back and look at that. So let's go through some slide decks first, and then we're going to get into the demo. So, like Mark said, I'm Arthur Bradway. I'm one of the senior sales engineers over here. I mainly work on the federal team, but I support the SLED guys too. I sit in our Herndon, Virginia office. Today's agenda, I'm going to do a quick little overview of just some of the stuff that's new, but there's so much stuff to cover. We're going to basically spend all the time on that. How to do some of the stuff with these new dashboards we got, a couple of the new features that are in the maps. We're going to talk about performance analyzer, or perf stack. There's a lot of people that don't know about it, even though it's been in the product for a while. So I always like to show that. Plus, you can do a little bit of that in the dashboards. I'll talk about some upgrade improvements. It's nothing I can show because I don't have anything that I can upgrade right this minute. And we'll do some demo and point you to some additional resources, and we'll do some Q&A if we got some time. You guys should have a Q&A window off to the right-hand side of your window, so you can ask some questions in there. We may not, depending on time and stuff, we can't get into a super big, deep discussion, but if it's something kind of simple and quick, we might be able to do it here. If there's more questions or you want a bigger demo, follow up with your sales reps and they can get another meeting set up. So just do a platform overview real quick. Hopefully all of you guys know what the Orion platform is, but if there's anybody new on here, think of Orion. It's not the product. It's the web server. You can log into that web server. You can create some users. It can do some alerts. It can do reports. It can display some information. But until you actually install some of the additional modules, it doesn't do much beyond that, right? So the platform hosts the modules like Network Performance Monitor, Configuration Manager, Server and Application Monitor, Virtualization Manager, or maybe it's from a security side, people like to use IPAM, UDT, or even the Network Configuration Monitor. So that's what the platform is with those modules. We get people that are running it on-prem. That's the traditional one where all the servers and everything being monitored as local. We've got a lot of people that have it start to put it all up in the cloud. So that could be one of two things typically. They're doing putting the Orion server and database in the cloud and then monitoring stuff. The maybe even monitoring the servers and everything in the cloud. Usually it's putting the Orion servers and things like that in the cloud, but then monitoring stuff on-prem. And we've got people that got a hybrid where they're doing a bit of both. I've got the people that have got Orion in the database on-prem, but pulling engines in the cloud to monitor stuff. Other people that got Orion and database in the cloud with pulling engines on local site to pull those guys and pull data back. So the nice thing is it fits to any environment you guys are pretty much looking to use it in, and we can monitor your services and devices. This is kind of the same platform, mentions all the products. I kind of bring it up in the next slide a little bit. These kind of both show the same thing. I go with this one because it's more colorful, but this talks about the architecture. So like I was saying, Orion is the platform that the pieces get installed on. Just a quick minute on this. The stuff on the left in the blue would be, I call our network management tools. The stuff in the yellow side here to the right would be our systems management tools. We've got a handful of products that are standalone tools, but they do integrate with the Orion console. They just don't install on it. So just for a high-level overview, NPMs, Network Performance Monitor. Go out and find all my routers, switches, firewalls, devices. Tell me about the performance and stuff like that, bandwidth. NetFlow or NTA that does all the bandwidth usage, who's using the traffic. NCM will let me back up my devices, push out changes, get alerted if a change got made. From a federal side, people love it because we can do some compliance checks around like DISA, FISMA, stuff like that. UDT is a user device tracker. This monitors all the stuff that's getting plugged into your network, all the ports. This is a nice complement to NPM. People may not monitor all the interfaces on a switch for users, right? If those ports are going to a server, I'm probably monitoring for the performance and everything. If those are going to like my desktop, they're probably not going to care from the performance perspective, but they probably want to know is that port active, up, down, who's plugged in. That's where UDT can come into play for all those other interfaces you're not monitoring. VNQM is a voice over IP network quality. This will tie into Cisco and Avaya call managers to pull back some call record data, and also do some Cisco IPLSA operations. IPM is the IP address manager. Does just what it sounds like. It helps you manage your IP addresses. Instead of that spreadsheet that everybody kind of keeps up to date and tries to share among everybody, this lets us do it for you. Log Analyzer. This one I kind of call both a system and a network tool. This is not meant to be a replacement for a SEM product or a long-term log management system. This is really meant to be a tool that collects that performance information or that syslog data and correlates it back to the performance information, so you can do some correlation of the data between what we're seeing from a performance side and what you're getting from your log side. Keep that stuff around for a couple of weeks. SAM, this is server and application monitor. To me, this is like NPM, but for my servers, right? Go out and find all my servers, up, down, memory, disk, CPU, monitor these processes, services, things that are running. vMan, or virtualization manager, that ties in with Hyper-V and VMware to give you a bunch of information about the guest and the host machines. And we're just starting to get our feet wet with some of the Nutanix stuff. And that pretty much kind of health information right now. SCM, or Server Configuration Monitor. This is a tool that will tell you if you've had any hardware software changes on your servers, both Windows and Linux. On the Windows side, you can also tell it to look at a certain file or registry key to tell you if something's been modified. We've got a couple of profiles out of the box for IIS and a couple of database ones. And then you've got the ability to do some PowerShell scripting for some other monitoring options there. On the Linux side, we do the same hardware software. There's a couple of profiles for the Linux boxes around the security essentials and some basic Linux system files and stuff like that. And then you got the option to do Python scripts or Bash scripts, the way you can do PowerShell on the Windows side. Really like that product. SRM, or Storage Resource Monitor, this ties into a bunch of the different storage arrays that bring back capacity performance information. WPM, this is a web performance monitor. This is a recorder playback type of function. Think your VCR. If everybody knows what a VCR is, this is where you can go out and say, hey, it's a synthetic transaction type of thing. I've got people that go access SharePoint or Office 365 or something like that, so I can record me going to the website, logging in, doing something, logging out, and I want to play that recording back or that transaction back from multiple locations to see what the performance is like from my different offices. Those are the platform products. The ones off to the side, like I said, these integrated DPAs, our database performance analyzer. This one is wait time analysis on the database. So it's looking at all the queries that are getting executed and tells you why they're slow coming back. Patch Manager, this isn't a standalone patch product. This sits on top of either the Windows Update Services or System Center. And the key thing is do the third-party patches that System Center and SUS don't do. So the Adobe, Chrome, Firefox, stuff like that, and let you be able to put it in there. The tool set, this is kind of SolarWinds founding. The guys that started the company were network guys, made a bunch of standalone network tools, started selling those, and they were great until everybody's network started getting bigger and bigger, and you needed to keep history longer. So instead of going and monitoring a handful or a dozen devices, suddenly you needed to monitor hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands. And instead of keeping the data for a day or two, you started needing to keep it for weeks, months, or years. So a lot of the standalone tools morphed into what you see in the Orion product today. Then there's a handful, like 5 or 6 of the tools that are integrated inside the console. But a lot of people will carry those around on the on their laptops to do that day-to-day stuff they've got. Application Performance Monitor, this one is, these are hosted. So all this stuff on this first line item here, those are all things you install on-prem. The application performance monitoring tools or management tools, those are our hosted SaaS solutions that kind of loosely integrate with Orion. Not completely. This is something we're really working on right now, but there's a piece out here called App Optics. This will go out and look at all your website and the services and stuff that not the services, not in terms of the Windows services, but the applications and services that you're running on there, and kind of show you the whole stack and how they're related and where some slowdowns are. So think of something like a hotel book insight or one of those things. If you go to something like an Expedia, you're not just talking to an Expedia, you're talking to the car reservation systems, the airline systems, the hotel systems. So you need to be able to see that whole stack and be able to monitor stuff through that. That's where sort of that App Optics comes in. There's another one called Pingdom. That's a little bit like WPM to some extent, the Web Performance Monitor, except it's a hosted solution. And it does one thing that WPM can't do, is this real user monitor or the RUM experience. And then Logly is a login tool that is hosted that a lot of people will use to get all their logs from their servers in the cloud and stuff. So that's just a quick little overview of the platform, just so everybody kind of knows when we start talking about some stuff here in the rest of the slides or in the demo, some of this will make sense. So what's changed in 2020.2? A lot of it's performance and the capacity stuff, honestly. They've spent a lot of time making some of the pages load faster and just respond quicker. So you can see on a couple of these things, like the login pages are like 96% faster. Some of these summary views, 35% faster. The alerts, 67% faster, based on them looking at people's environments and doing measurements between the old and the new stuff. This scaling is probably the biggest one you're going to catch on the tool is in Server and Application Monitor. The previous version, 2019.4, Server and Application Monitor maxed out at 150,000 components per server. So a component is, if I'm monitoring a server and there's 5 services I'm monitoring, those would count as like 5 components. So I could have had up to 150,000 of those in the old environments. With this release, that went up to, was it 500? It's either 500,000, it must be 500,000. I had 550K in my head, but I think it's 500,000. So a pretty good increase on this one. And the other one is now on NPM, or the Network Performance Monitor. We maxed out at about 400,000 elements, and an element, essentially think of how many interfaces you're monitoring. It's a little bit more than that, but if you count interfaces, it's usually the biggest number. That maxed out at around 400,000 elements in the previous release, and now it is at 1 million elements. So there's been some big improvements on some of the scalability sides. So that one is all in the documentation. You guys can read that. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a webinar on some of that stuff specifically later. We're here to talk mostly about some of the GUI stuff that everybody's going to notice. So that being said, the big thing I think people are going to start playing with are these dashboards. This is you still got the old dashboards, I would say. I would call these ones the modern dashboards. This is the first step on those. And that's kind of what we're going to probably spend the majority of the time in on a demo. Orion Maps, this has been in the product for a while. They added some new stuff in this release to help you, I'm going to call it the aesthetics, make the maps look prettier. It was some cosmetic stuff that people had asked for in the last release or two that we got in here. So I really like that. And probably one of the new features is you can't enable it on every device because the amount of data it's keeping, but there's this thing called time travel that, on certain maps you can turn on to see what's changed. So you can keep that snapshot. The big thing down here, don't worry about how to enable it. We'll show that. But you can do snapshots every 10 minutes. You can keep that for 7 days. And you can do it on 10 maps total. And that'll keep like 100 entities on a page. So, because it does keep a lot of data. So this is just the first release on the limitations that we can keep around for that. So you're not, if you've got hundreds of maps, you're not going to turn it on for all of them. You're going to turn it on for some key ones. And the performance analyzer, perf stack. This has been in the tool for a couple of years. I'm still running into people that don't know it's there, or maybe they're on an older version. which actually I'll say something about that in a second. An older version and didn't even realize it was in there. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Upgrades. So when I said the old versions, this made me think of the upgrades. So there's a new upgrade resource center that you can go and look at to see what do you need to do to get ready to do upgrades. I'd really tell everybody to go out there and look at this. If you're not on the 2020.2 release, you really want to get here, because all this stuff I'm going to show is based on 2020.2. And just so you guys know, depending on how current people are staying, we changed the name, the version of numbers, not the name, sorry. Everything used to have its own version number, like NPM was like, the network performance monitor was some 7 dot numbers, and like SAM was on 6s, and IPAM was on version 4s. And when you're trying to figure out what version was compatible with what version, you had to go into a matrix to figure out what numbers corresponded to other numbers. So it was confusing for customers. It was confusing for us too. So in the release in the fall last year, to get it simple, everything's got the same version number now. So if you're at a platform version, essentially. So we changed it to 2019.4. That doesn't change anything. That would have been like NPM like 7.9 or 8.0. I can't remember, but it just became 2019.4. We just came out with another release, 2020.2. So that will help you guys. This will help you guys get upgraded. You really want to get to this one. One of the things that maybe stopped people from doing some upgrades earlier was about 2 versions ago, because Microsoft started dropping. They didn't drop support for 2012, but basically if we found problems in 2012, which we found when we were developing the product, Microsoft wouldn't fix those anymore. So we had to stop supporting it. Microsoft sort of reevaluated their situation on that. Now we can resubmit issues if we find them. So for this version, at least for right now, in this version, you can upgrade from, if you're on 2012, you can still upgrade. Before you had to be on 2016. So this is a big thing. I don't know how long this is going to be, if it's going to be in the 2020 Part 2 release or the 2021 releases. But for right now, you can get upgraded to, if you're on 2012, get updated to the current version. So I'd really go and start looking at that if you guys haven't looked at it. Because this is the way you're going to get all the new benefits. So this new upgrade center or resource center is a big deal. So let's go to the demo stuff. Because I'm going to have to rush to show all that stuff. So I'm going to go over and share my screen, and hopefully everybody's seeing the web console now. Just 2 seconds while we're doing that. This is the Upgrade Resource Center. So this is where you can go upgrade now. The thing I loved about this most of all is I actually talked to some people that are back on, like, I was just on a call the other day with somebody that had 11.5. That's way more than 3 years old. We're going on 4 years old now. So this kind of shows you the releases from the last 7 years. And you can kind of drill in and see release notes and everything along that way and what was new and what was get added. So I kind of like it for the release timeline. The rest of the information is good. I like the timeline. One of the things I can't demo, but there were some changes in the SDK where people were hoping to do some scripted upgrades and force some stuff. So there's a thwack post. These will be in the links, will be in the information we send out to you. But there's a thwack post about doing some upgrades and how to use the SDK on it. So I would go out here and look at this. This helps you when you do the upgrades now. You can sign it, do hey, show me what I need to do so I can make a plan to submit to my boss and do what's going on. Maybe I want to download the files ahead of time and not actually do the upgrade at that point, and I can actually do the upgrade. So this kind of talks about what the plan is, actually downloading the files, and then a little bit of the stuff we've changed with the SDK that might help you do some upgrades. There's no version for me to upgrade to, so I can't show this because this is only 2020.2 going forward. But this is a great page to reference. This dashboard example I'm getting ready to show, this is all in a thwack post out here. So when I said don't try to follow me too closely, I'm basically doing this thwack post, but with more instructions. A great place to stay up to date with what's going on THWAC is our SolarWinds Labs. So I just noticed that they just released one yesterday that maybe shows some of the stuff I'm going to show today. So I wish I'd have watched theirs because maybe I would have borrowed some stuff that they demoed. We might talk about this towards the end, but we have a big virtual event towards the in November called THWAC Camp. This is usually 2 days. I think it's still 2 days. The 12th and the 13th. Read the title. It's an online virtual event. We know people, especially in the time of COVID, but right now nobody could get out of their offices and say they want to go to Texas for 2 or 3 days for a conference. Budgets aren't there. People can't get out of work. So we've always done this virtual camp. We're doing it again this year. I don't think it's finalized yet because you can't even open up registration, but I've heard there's going to be a couple great tracks or sessions on stuff for the Fed and SLED customers that are out there. But this is a great event to go to, so I'd keep my eyes out on that for updates and getting signed up. The other one, when I start doing all this stuff, everybody always asks about training. Seems like a ton of people don't know that if you've got access to our software, you've got access to this customer portal, and inside the customer portal, there's virtual classrooms. And it doesn't matter, all you got to do is own something, you've got access to all this classroom. So you can come out here and see, here's some new release training for 2020.2. Oh, there's some modern dashboard training for 2020.2. That I did not know. The map stuff. So there's a ton of information out here. So come out and use this, guys. So enough talking, let's show some stuff. And this is going to be fun because literally this is so new. I just started playing with this myself. So hopefully I don't look too bad while we're doing this. Modern dashboards. Let's go over here. So if you go to settings, there's going to be this dashboard tab, which I clicked on something to refresh it. And you can create a new dashboard. So we're going to sort of go through this whole little process and talk about the different types of widgets we can put on this page. So I'm going to go say, I want to add a new dashboard. We'll call it Arthur's demo dashboard. And we'll say, open this up right away so that I can create stuff. So it's a blank canvas. Up here on the right, you can say drag a widget to drag to create a new widget. I drag that on the page, and basically I can say I want to configure it. And there's really 4 types of widgets. There's a KPI widget, this time series, which is some perf stack stuff, proportional widgets you'll see, and table widgets you'll see. But what you do, I want to start with this table widget. This is the one I think people might play with the most. And what I want to do is click on this table widget, and I can either say create it and then edit it, or I can just say customize it. So I'm going to just save a step and say customize it. And now we give it a name, Arthur's demo table widget. And this is going to show things like the node, CPU, memory, disk, a number of volumes and interfaces. Really, my spelling doesn't matter right now. I shouldn't be worried about it. So that's what we're going to call it. And then we've got to go through and decide what data we're going to display in this. And there's 2 ways to do this. There's like a graphical query builder, which I think is what most people are probably going to use and want to get started with. And then there's the guys that have been using Orion for a while. This is where they can go in and do their own custom edits or custom SQL statements. This is going to be the more advanced one. I think you might end up using this a fair amount down the road, but I think maybe getting started, everybody's going to try this graphical builder. So I want to go and do something sort of simple. I'm going to do something on the nodes. So I'll click node and click next. And now I need to add some columns over here. So I want stuff like, I'm going to do caption. We'll do the CPU load. Not everything shows up right here. This percent memory used. And then there's some stuff that doesn't show up in the list that I want in here. I want to know what the status is and a link to the machine. If I click this Show Advanced Entity button, this really shows everything in the product. And now if I scroll down the list, which this shows you, we collect a ton of data depending on what module you got installed, right? If I go through here, one of the ones I want to get is the link to the machine. So I want this details URL. That's the one that will be the hyperlink. And then way down at the bottom, I want to find out my status. Is it up and down and stuff? And then just to get off the one node, I want to go back up. I said I wanted to see maybe how many volumes there were on those devices. So if I go to volumes, I just want to get at the name and stuff, how many they've got. So we'll say the volume caption. And the other one I want to do is interfaces. Same thing. How many interfaces are there and what's there? So the interfaces, and we're going to do the same thing, this caption. And this is where you're going to have to just do some experimenting to see what it is you guys want in this interface, the display. Now, these guys, because they're the interfaces, there could be multiple of them. We got drop boxes over here next to them, so I can see like a count, a min, a max, an average. I just want to know a number right this second. So I'm going to change both of these to count. That doesn't exist on the other ones because we're getting other data. And then cool down here, I can kind of see what we're going to get displayed. But everybody's going to go, well, this doesn't make sense to me. What's a CPU 2 and a status 1 and everything? That's just the raw data. We haven't tied this together to anything yet. We're going to do that in the next step, and then I'm going to say normalize all the data. So I like to see, you can see what's kind of going to get displayed here. But what I really like is down here, because like I said, we collect a ton of data. There's a lot of modules. I don't know where all this stuff in the database is. This is actually showing me the query that's getting built. So this is great. I can't edit this because this is just a hard-coded query. But the great thing is there's a button here. I can say copy the code. And this can help me start to build those more advanced SQL statements that I want to get. If I wanted to choose that hand-edited one, I just copy and paste this. Maybe I don't, this is hard-coded to the top 10. Maybe I want the top 25. Well, I could copy and paste this code in there and change it from 10 to 25, right? So that's easy, and it shows me where to start looking around. The other one is this query performance. You could make something so complicated, it could maybe take a minute to run and return thousands of rows, which may not be the best thing. So this is showing you how fast it runs and the number of records we're getting. So we'll just save this model for a second. So basically, I defined the data that I want to collect. Now I want to define how do I want it displayed. So that's where we go and add a column. This is just like building a report. So in column 1, I'm going to call this one the node. And down in here, we're going to format it. And I want to do the Orion entity because this is going to be my node name, right? And just a second. I sort of got some notes just to make sure I don't miss anything. So I'm trying to scroll down to make sure I've got all of the notes in here that I wanted to get, right? And in the icon, I want to see the entity type and the status. And you notice now, this is going to start changing over here on the left. And what we're going to do is map it. And I want to map this to a network device. Oops, network device. If I can click on the right buttons. So you saw the icon changed. And what we want to do is get the status. So now we're getting the up, down, red, blue, green, or red, yellow, green. And I want to get the URL link to it. And what are we going to call that thing? We're going to call it the caption. So now there, we just built the link to our machines. So kind of easy. You got to play with it, but it's pretty easy. Now that one was the node. This one, I wanted to have some CPU information in here. So we'll say CPU, go over to the property, and we're going to do the same sort of thing, except on this one, CPUs have got thresholds, so I want to see the threshold. We're going to do the CPU load because that's the CPU column. And we're going to do CPU load for the node. And that's all we need there. And then we're going to do one for the memory. So there's a CPU that got built. And we're going to pretty much do the exact same thing. We're going to do threshold value. We're going to do... Uh-oh, did I not add something in there earlier? I might have thrown in the wrong CPU, memory, threshold value. We're going to do a line chart. I must not have dragged one thing in. We'll fix that. So I'm going to cheat. Let's go back up here. Instead of doing memory, we'll add memory in a minute. We'll do volumes. This is the beauty of a live demo, guys. Volumes. And down here, that's going to be, because I was just looking for numbers. like a count. So we're just going to say it's a simple number. And this one's going to be the volume count. And I want to have an icon in front of it. So we're going to say it's a volume, which would be way down here at the bottom of the list. I should have picked stuff that was a little bit more towards the top of the list. But now we got the volume icon. And we're going to add a new column. And this one, we're going to do the interfaces. And maybe for time, I won't even go back and add the other one, but I might. We're going to do interfaces. That's going to be another one that's a simple number. And this one's going to be the interface. And we're going to get a little interface icon there in front of it. Sorry, it's going to be an NPM interface, network interface. And now we got that. And I can say create the widget. And now we've got that widget that's created. And like I said, I realized I goofed up in this. It's like, oh, I really wanted to add to memory. And maybe this is good, but this is for all of my machines everywhere. Maybe I only want it for a certain department or a group. Actually, let's take care of the memory one first before I bring up the new one. So what did I do up in here? I must have dragged over something that was not you. Oh, you know what? I thought I dragged it over. Maybe I didn't. So let's drag in the memory used. That's why it didn't show up in the interface. Why is it not let me drag and drop that one over here? There it goes. Memory used, and let's move that one up here by the status or something. Actually, put that next to CPU load. So now I can go back in and save that. Sorry, guys. And down in here, we'll add a new column. And this one's going to be the memory. So you can see if you kind of go and forget something, it's not that hard to go back in and add it up. So this is going to be another threshold value. And this one's going to be memory used. And it's going to be memory usage. And there we go. And that one doesn't look great right this second. But for this time of the demo, I got to get moving. So this is cool. But now let's go with the example of, I like this, but I want this filtered for a different department or a group or something like that. I got to fix that percentages later. The cool thing is I can use this as kind of as a template and copy it. So if I drag a new template down in here or a new widget and say finish configuring, we just called this Arthur's demo. So let's do Arthur's demo table widget. And it automatically fills in everything we already had there before. And I want to customize that because what I want to do is just filter this for a group. So I can come over here and say edit again. And down in here, we didn't talk about it, but there's filters. And one of the things I want to filter off of is a custom property because I've got a department. So if I come down into here, there's going to be custom properties. And I want to go off of the department. So I need to add that in as an option to be displayed, right? And now I can go down here to the filters and say I want to filter on department. And I know the name contains federal. So that's what I'm going to just do here. Federal. And I'm going to go and save this. And let's give it a new name for federal. And you can see this dropped from my top 10 list down to my top 4 list because those are the only machines that are my federal department. So easy to sort of build these and get them done. And what I'm going to do, just for space saving stuff, I'm going to delete these for the next example. So hopefully that didn't confuse people too much. So the next type of widget is our a KPI metric. So I can drag something down here, and we can say finish configuring, and we're going to do KPI, and I'm just going to create an empty one. And I'm going to say customize it. And for this, I'm going to use a custom query that I've already got built, just so you guys can see how that works. So Arthur, this is going to be a, what was the first one I had? Nodes that are down. Nodes that are down. And we'll come in and change that stuff in a minute. And I'm just going to hand edit this and save it. And now this is great. I just created a widget that told me 3 nodes are down. Awesome. Except I don't have any context behind it, right? My first question is 3 good or bad? And I don't know. So this one, and the other one is, probably if this is a widget or some sort of KPI, management wants to see green, red, and yellow, right? Or some sort of colors. So super easy. Let's go in and edit that. And I'm going to put some context behind this. So right now, let's just pretend that if 3 nodes are down, that's well within our, we're going to say the background's green, so it looks good. Because 3 nodes being down, that's not a big deal for us. We've got thousands of devices, so 3 of them being down, not a big deal. But I got to work with the data I got. So let's go in and change this and do some thresholds. So if I go in and let's pretend, let's say I want it to go to warning if it's 4 and I want it to go to red if it's 5. So right now, 3 nodes down, that's well within our threshold, and everything's green. If I change that warning level to 3, now it's going to go yellow, right? Now it's going to start warning me because we have 3 nodes that are down. But maybe I want to get warned when 2 nodes are down. So still going to be yellow, but it's got to be critical now when it goes to 3. So I can have it change to red. So real quick, do I want this to be red, yellow, green, or whatever background color I want to have? But this is just a great example of showing how we can use the thresholds to customize the color and the GUI and the information that's in there, right? So the KPI widgets are pretty easy. Let's do a proportional widget real quick. So I'm going to say done, and I got to edit that so I can delete this. So that's what a simple example of a KPI is. Proportional widget is going to be a bar chart or either a vertical or horizontal bar. So we'll say proportional. Oops, I don't have to drag it over there. We'll say customize it. And this one is another one. I'm going to use a query I've already got. This is going to show me the number of machines grouped by their status for my whole environment. So we'll say node count by status, node count by status. And there's 4 different types of charts: pie, donut, vertical, and horizontal. And just to show you how easy it is to copy and clone these, we're going to do each one of them real fast. So in the custom, we're going to do a hand edit, and we're going to paste that code in and save the model. And boom, I'm going to create the widget. Oh, actually, you want to edit it a little bit. Sorry, wasn't thinking. So we want to do status, and I want status, and I want Orion status. So 1 node up, 14 in critical, 2 down, 3 in warning. Save the changes. So there's my pie chart. Like I said, it's easy to clone some of these. So we're going to use a template, and I'm going to say, actually, let's make this a little bit more descriptive. Edit. Arthur demo node count. Because I realized the part of this one, you get the name is where you're going to clone it here in a second. So Arthur demo node count, put that right at the top. So I want to clone that or copy it, customize it, and I'm going to change this to a donut chart. So same thing, just a different way of displaying it. Drag in another new one. So it depends on how people like to look at it. We're going to look at the Arthur one again, say customize it, and we're going to change this to a vertical bar. And now we created that. And I'm going to drag one more in here and do the last one that was a horizontal. And we're going to take that one, customize it, and change it to a horizontal bar. And create the widget. And, we're going to make this look a little bit prettier here for a second. So let's clean this up. We'll put the bars down below. And that chart's a little too tight for me, so I can kind of just drag it out. Let's drag this one out. We'll drag this one out a little bit, make it a little bit narrower. Make this guy a little bit narrower, drag him up. So we can move stuff around. make the pie charts however we want. But there's an example of really quick doing some of those proportional charts. So super easy. The next one is going to be the time series widget. And for that talks about PerfStack or performance analyzer. So we're going to kind of jump out of here for a second. I'm going to go over to our corporate demo because there's more data in there for a second. So this is our online demo system. And this, I just want to do an introduction of Performance Analyzer over here because a lot of people don't know it. So there's this thing called Performance Analyzer, or we call them perf stacks. And what this does, this correlates data amongst all your products, right? So in this case, we've got a little box here that's a SQL node. And we said, let's throw in the peak CPU load, average CPU, memory, and stuff like that. Well, I also want to know, did any configuration changes get made to that device that could be causing a performance issue? So I want to drag in this configuration change. I know this box is probably virtualized. It's got some other apps on it. And plus, it's never the application. I'm a systems guy, so it's never my fault. It's always the network's fault. So I want to see other relationships. So I can click this little button, and it shows me everything else that's related to this guy right this minute. So if I think there's a problem with the network interface or something like that, I can come over here to the interface and drag in, is it available or not. Storage arrays, I can go out and get capacity performance metrics and drag them and drop them over here. The cool thing is I take whatever the network team needs, the server guys need, the virtual guys need, whoever it is, the application guys, I put it in this perf stack, I can save it, and then I can share this with other people so they can all see this. And then we can look at a certain time range and all this stuff. There's demos on PerfStack on YouTube and stuff like that. So I could spend 15 minutes on this. We don't have time for it. But this is a quick little PerfStack, right? So I'm going to go over here to my system and show you how to make a PerfStack real quick and then embed it in one of the dashboards. So if I go to Performance Analyzer or Performance Analysis, I want to add some entities. I'm going to just do something somebody asked about the other day. Somebody had like a handful of machines. They wanted to just see them all lumped together and see CPU and memory. So like I've got a group called Fed in my organization, or all my machines that have Fed in the name. I'm just going to add those to the list. So I just said search for Fed, enable the machines, add those selected items, and now they're on my list of stuff that I can choose from. And like I said, this guy was just looking for CPU and memory to compare it against all the machines. So we did CPU and memory. On machine 1, go to machine 2. Do CPU and memory. And then on machine 3, you wanted CPU and memory. I'm just doing 3 because that's what I get in my little environment. So now I've got these created. Each one of my machines, I can see they're like compare them against each other. I can save this as Arthur's demo perf stack and save it. So anytime I wanted to look at this, I could just come over here and load it. Whoops, did it say? Oh, it's already loaded. I can't load it. I got another one that's got the same thing. Now, let's go back over to the dashboard. So just a quick example of building a perf stack, right? So one of the other dashboards is that time series. So I can drag and create a new widget, finish configuring, and in here we're going to do time series. This is the 4th one. And it's going to be an empty one, and I can say customize now. Arthur's CPU and memory. CPU and memory, whatever we're going to call it. And down here, it's what perf stack do we want to use. So we got to edit the model. And now I just choose that group one I just created right there. And now we just embedded this perf stack inside a dashboard widget. So this is cool. And then if we wanted to modify it, maybe I don't care about the 12 hours. I can just come in here, and this is where I could customize it. Maybe I'm only looking at the last hour or something like that. So customize it and changing it. So there's dashboards. And we've only got about 15 minutes left. So that's all the dashboards. The other big one I want to show is maps. So on the home page, there is Orion Maps. And actually, let's go show one real quick. If I go back over to our corporate demo, here's an example of a map that you can create. This is showing like, actually, I want to go to the NPM summary page. This is like an MPLS network or our ACI map, so you can start adding stuff on here. And a lot of the stuff in the new release allowed you to start customizing these icons, putting more labels on them, and adding all this other information. But here's some examples of like a map, right? So a lot of the people, though, I get asked, they want drill down maps. They want to add backgrounds to the maps and stuff like that. So that's what I thought I'd show today. So I've got some stuff already saved, but I want to create like an office map for a location. And I'm going to call this my San Diego office. I grew up in San Diego, so I use San Diego for a lot of my examples. And I've got a background image of my office that I got from the facilities guys. So I'm going to bring that in here, and here's my office. And I'm going to kind of cheat and search for those same Fed machines again. And I'm just going to drag these onto the map. And now we can say, I'm done. That's my map. Okay, that's cool. What I can do is come over here to the home page now. And I want to customize this. I can say I want to add a widget. I'm going to do an Orion map widget. I'm going to put this right at the top of my page in the middle. So say we're done adding the widgets. And now I can say, choose my map. And we're going to do Arthur's San Diego office map. That's great. I got a map on my page now. I can click on it. I can drill into my node. Cool. Hopefully everybody knew that part already for the most part. But people are like, it's kind of a plain map. I can't read it always the best. And more importantly, I'd like to be able to drill in from maybe the US to a state and to an office or something like that. And that's where the drill down comes in. So let's talk some customization for a minute. So let's go into this edit mode here. And we're back at the map. And this is where the tidying up and some of that stuff came in with the new release. So I can move something around on here, but maybe I don't like that Fed server being down on the bottom or this right with the name. So you can come in here and I can say, I want to move that to the middle center. Or sorry, right center, not the middle, it's right over the text. Right center. Left top center, since I can't read. Top, left, bottom, right. So wherever I want to do it, move it around. I can now change the color of the text. I can make it bold, change the font size. One of the newer things, we can use custom icons in here now, so you can almost make up your own icon pack if you got stuff. I kind of like that. We'll leave that one as the default. Maybe I don't like the circle. I want it as a rectangle or a hexagon or something like that. But the big one is this is where we can turn on, whoops, not yet there. Click on this guy. This is where I can turn on the history tracking. So when I click on the map, I can say track history of this map. And maybe, again, everybody wants a colorful background. Maybe the office is good, but San Diego's got some cool breezes, a lot of blue and yellow when the Chargers were there. So maybe I want a blue background. I want to go in and add some labels or something. So now I can come in here and drag and drop a text box down and call it like San Diego office. And that one, we're going to make that one much bigger text. That one I'm going to make a we'll make that one yellow too. And, we can do some other stuff. So I've had a lot of people like the San Diego office. Somebody's like, oh, I wonder where that's located. You can actually make that a hyperlink so it opens up like Google Maps or something and actually see where the office is located. So we'll bring that over here. Again, this isn't the prettiest thing right this second. This is more just what's showing you guys what we could do, and I can save that. So now, just because, again, time, I want to be able to drill down into this map. So think of the maps. Don't think from building from the top up. Think about bottom from the building from the bottom. Sorry, not the top down. You want to go bottom up. So what I get a lot of people is they go, well, I want to have a map of the U.S., and I want to see where all my offices are. So California, Texas, Virginia. And when I click on California, I want to drill in and see where my offices are. And then when I click on San Diego, I want to see the San Diego office map. Easy to do. And luckily, I'm glad I created some of these ahead of time because we are really running short on time. What I've got is my office maps and my state maps. But what I need to do is I need to create a new one for California. So California map, and we're going to do a background. And I've got my California image. And simple, we're just going to, make that a lot smaller. So we're just going to save this. And I need to create another one for my US map. New US map. And we're going to put an image on here. US map outline. Not to scale and all that stuff. And we're just going to save that. So we got a US map. So let me describe what we've got in here. We got a US map. I've got maps for, each state, California, Texas, and Virginia. And I got offices for Texas, Virginia, and California or San Diego. So how do I do this drill in? And like I said, you got to think about it from the bottom up. So what I would do is I'd have my San Diego map. I'd drop that on top of California, and then I'd drop California on top of the US. So San Diego, and where is California? So what I do on my California map, open that up. And when you go to edit it, you can add stuff over here. Instead of adding an entity, I want to add a Orion map. So now that gets filtered for my maps. If I choose maps. And San Diego office. Boom, save that. And if I open up, doesn't let me do it from there. I got to go back over here. And now my US map, we're going to open that up. And we're going to edit it. And for the entities, I'm going to do Orion Maps again. And this is where I said, guys, this is all getting recorded, so you'll be able to go back and watch this. I've got my Texas, I've got my Virginia, and we've got that California one we just created. So I just drag and drop those onto my map now and save it. So the US added the California maps. That California map, I ended the San Diego office. In Texas, I already had our 2 offices there. Now if I go back over to that dashboard that I created earlier, and instead of that cool San Diego map, let's edit this. Actually, come on. You know what? It's not going to let me do that, so I'm just going to delete it real fast. We'll see. Oh no, I can edit it right here. Sorry. So instead of it being the San Diego map, I want to say show me all the maps. And we're going to choose the US map. So these are all the other ones I individually created. Now I replace that San Diego map with my US map. And if I would drill into California, there's all my California offices. And I drill into there and I can see my San Diego office. And again, now, because I'm running so much short on time, I'd spend a little bit more on this. But this is where everybody was asking for the ability to add more information to these maps, right? This is where they were like, hey, we want to add labels, we want to add some graphics or something like that to the map and be able to label them, clean them up, pretty them up, change colors, change fonts, change icons. That's all the stuff that came in this release. So just because we've only got a couple minutes left, I want to get back out and look to see if there were any questions. So let me get back out here to where I can see not share my screen. Go back to the presentation for a second, and then I can see the questions. Can I insert pictures? Yeah, so Ash that was asking about images. You can put anything in a background. It could be a JPEG, it could be a PNG, it could be whatever you want. I don't know about the audio. I didn't see anything from anybody else. The interactive, yeah, some of the widgets are interactive. Some of them are not. Um, like the ones that had the Orion link, that one I built in the table widget, those were interactive, so I could click on a link and go into it. So, yes. Let's see, what patch manager? Patch manager, yeah, I can get installed on the SUS server if you want to. That's what a lot of people do. And then there was a sound check. That was just at the beginning, starting the patch question, the audio. Again, nobody said anything else about the audio. The picture was a question. And
you covered the questions here pretty well. And if I could just jump back in, I mean, I know we wanted to cover some of these resources that people can get more information on how to get information about the releases and all that. No problem at all. And then, we've covered the Q&A. We're just running out of time, so I just wanted to touch on a few things here and wrap things up for us. And thanks so much for that. So also, I think I want to thank you, Arthur, for the presentation. Thanks everyone for attending. Appreciate everyone's support and attention. There's information on how you can contact us if you need more information. Like Arthur was saying, some of these topics get a little bit deep, and you might want to get an individual demonstration scheduled so that we can work on that together. Also, Arthur mentioned the THWAC camp, which is coming up, and the registration begins here in September. So just want to keep everybody aware of that as well. Arthur, looks like there's a question. I think we're going to wrap this up. So anyway, we will get back to anybody who provided questions that we didn't get to. We do apologize that we ran out of time. And thanks, everyone, for their attention. Thanks so much.